Real quick, thanks for joining us on this episode. We know that as a healthcare professional, your time is precious, but so is sharing your vital health information with your community, and that's never been more important than today. That's where CapCut comes in. CapCut is the intuitive, all-in-one video editing app designed for speed. Forget the complicated software. With CapCut, you can trim patient education videos, add professional captions for accessibility, and incorporate clear voiceovers in minutes. Streamline your workflow by using our preferred editing software, the one that I use personally, and you can find that link in the podcast show notes.
I would say dive right in. Don't be hesitant. We need you. We need your voice. We need your opinion. And ask around for help. Ask your colleagues. We are all here to be of assistance and give advice. And now we've been doing it for a while. And I don't think there's really a right place or a wrong place to start. Just start. And you'll quickly find a new network of physicians who have your back and are there to support you along the way. And it might turn into something magical that you never expected, as it has for me and maybe even Dustin. So I would just say dive in, get started.
Welcome back to Med Creator 101, the go-to podcast for HCPs on social. I'm Mimi Banks, founder of MB Social, and I'm here as always with my co-host, board-certified dermatologist and dermfluencer, Dr. Dustin Portela.
Hello again, Mimi. Nice to be back with you.
Nice to see you. Today, we're joined by our dear friend, Dr. Mara Weinstein-Velez, a board-certified dermatologist and one of the only fellowship-trained cosmetic and laser surgeons in Western New York. She completed her dermatology residency at the Cleveland Clinic, holds a prestigious laser and cosmetic surgery fellowship with Harvard and Yale affiliated faculty, and has published extensively in peer-reviewed journals and dermatologic textbooks.
Dr. Weinstein's also a clinical researcher, a national speaker, and an active leader in the Women's Dermatological Society and ASDS, the American Society for Dermatological Surgery. And what makes her such an important voice on social media is how she uses social to bust myths, clarify misinformation, and teach people how to make safe, informed decisions about their skin, especially in aesthetics. Dr. Mara, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Mimi and Dustin. It is a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited to chat with both of you. And thank you for that kind introduction. It's always hard hearing about yourself, but really happy to be here and share what I can with your audience.
We're thrilled. And before we talk about social media stuff, we love to play a little this or that rapid fire style. Are you open?
Sure. Yeah, bring it on.
All right. White coat or scrubs?
White coat, obviously. Worked really hard for this, so I wear it all the time.
Window or aisle seat?
Aisle. I'm a little squirmy on the plane, so I like to be able to get up, move around.
I'm a window person. What about you, Dustin?
No, I'm on the aisle. I want to be able to get up whenever I want to get up. When I was a kid, I wanted to be on the window, and then as an adult, I need to be able to stand up whenever I want.
This is very presumptuous, but United or Delta?
Gosh, so I grew up a Continental girl. So Continental then was bought by United. So I had loyalty to United for a really long time. But recently I switched to Delta. I think the service is better. They have better snacks. The planes are cleaner. Delta now.
I kind of agree.
Yeah, I'm Delta. Any chance I get.
Delta all the way. All right. Coke or Pepsi?
That one's tough for me. I'm really not that picky. Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke, either one.
Dustin, do you drink soda?
Yeah, I'm Coke Zero. At home, I drink peach Fresca. That is my number one favorite.
Ooh, we are a Fresca household also. Love Fresca. Fresca's also good in like an alcoholic beverage. I don't know if you've tried that.
I have not.
As a mixer.
As a mixer with tequila. Fresca and tequila is a good drink. All right, last one. TikTok guilty pleasure.
So you might not be surprised about this one, but I love watching makeup tutorials. It's sort of in the line of, what I do. So it aligns, but I just love makeup and have been loving the different tutorial options.
Dustin, I think we spoke about this last time, but I think it's so worthwhile sharing again. Talk about yours.
Yeah, I get into like these crime TikToks. It's like body cam footage or people that are getting arrested. And I don't know why, but I'll go down a rabbit hole and I'll just watch somebody who just is acting completely irrationally in public. And they're usually the kind of people who think that because of who their daddy is or who they know or their job, like I'm an attorney, and that they're going to get out of it, and they don't. I will deep dive on those videos and waste way too much time.
I started getting served content for, and now I can scroll for a long time, on this woman who discovers beehives like in crazy places, like in walls. Have you seen? And she like takes off the panel and there'll be thousands of bees. Sometimes she's wearing shorts, sometimes she's all covered up, but it's wild to see. She literally takes off a wall of any kind and like comes with all of her tools and like literally opens it up and you see, and she looks for the queen bee, finds a queen bee, and then like removes the bees. Really random.
Wow.
We all have our TikTok guilty pleasure.
But I love it. That's why it's there.
That's why it's there. That's like what's so fun about social. Not as fun as talking about you on social, though.
So, Dr. Mara, when and why did you get started on social media? Let's go back to the early days. And when did this start for you? And what was your motivation to get started on social media as a dermatologist?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's twofold. And again, probably not surprising, but I started back in 2014. It was just when I'd finished fellowship and started my new job. I was working in New York City in a private practice setting. And my social media actually started with photos of my daughter. And that's pretty much, I think, what a lot of us did at the get-go. Post pictures of our family. And, my family they're all spread across the United States and other countries. So for me, it was a way to share what was happening in our growing family with them. And then quickly, being in that private practice setting, it transitioned to more posting about different media quotes that I'd given. So this private practice had a wonderful media person, and they would ping me multiple times a week to give quotes for different media outlets. So Teen Vogue, People Magazine, Allure, you name it. And so I was getting quoted left and right. And what I would do is take those screenshots. This is when Instagram was just photos. So I'd take those screenshots and sort of post what I had spoken about and written a little bit more in the comments. And that's really how it started. And I think it speaks a lot to just building up your credentials and having people sort of tag along to that and ask more questions and become interested in what you do.
What a great resource in your very first job to have like a dedicated media person that had all those connections to the magazine outlets. That's rare.
No, absolutely. Yeah, she definitely got me going. And what I appreciate is that she was very encouraging and said things like, you're really good at this. Like, let's keep doing this together. And I say that to say, not to toot my own horn, but to say that as physicians, we don't train on these things and we really don't know what we're going to be good at. So it really helps to get that little boost of confidence and say like, hey, I can do this.
Yeah. Starting out with media quotes and mentions and doing screenshots, when did the content kind of transition into, I'm going to make videos. I'm going to get on and put my own voice out there in this format?
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll remember the algorithm sort of changed or the platform changed at some point where we needed to make videos and needed to do more live action speaking online. And I had years of experience in my past pre-med school of doing interviews and being on camera and speaking in different capacities. And so that for me was a really natural transition. I also got involved more in the ASDS True Experts campaign. And basically, a bunch of us physicians decided, wasn't my decision at all, but, a group of ASDS physicians got together and realized, hey, we need to have a voice out there. As the platforms grew and there were more and more influencers talking about skincare and what you needed and what you didn't need to use on your skin, there was a lot of misinformation. And I think it really was the ASDS that sort of got us to band together and jump on that to speak the truth when it comes to medicine and dermatology.
What role has your fellowship training, and being an expert in lasers and cosmetics, how has that influenced the way that you approach and the things that you talk about on social media? That's a little different from skincare that lots of dermatologists talk about, but your expertise in procedural dermatology, how have you brought that to social media?
That's a great question. And I think it's a loaded question because I feel a bit like we're living in the wild, wild west when it comes to more procedural based, when it comes to procedures that have to do with aesthetics, so lasers and injectables. As you mentioned, I did do some extra training in learning about the technology and really spearheading some of the clinical trials behind some of the devices and injectables that are out there today. And so when I approach these topics on social media, I always credential myself first. And so I say, I am a board certified dermatologist, fellowship trained in lasers and injectables, and, have done clinical studies related to the launch of these products. And I think that's very important to start out with. Beyond that, we have to be careful. We don't want to speak poorly of I don't know if they're colleagues, but other injectors or providers. But I think it's important to caution our audience on what bad could happen. And unfortunately, in the position I'm in, working at a university in the cosmetic field, I see a lot of these complications. And so I really just try to speak the truth on what I see in the office and educate my audience on the importance of finding skilled injectors who are credentialed and trained and can avoid these complications to the best of their ability.
So a lot of it is education before somebody ever has a procedure. You're trying to get out there and give them the information that they need, the right questions to ask, and probably a fair amount of debunking misinformation, I would imagine, is part of what you're doing.
Yes. And I also try to show some of my outcomes, so before and after, so that builds trust. You are doing these procedures, you're talking about them, and here are your outcomes, which are natural appearing. Nobody looks botched or crazy. And more importantly, showing outcomes over the years to show that your true goal is to get patients looking like the best version of themselves and not like somebody else or some AI model that they want to look like.
Wow, wait, is that a request now? Do people want to look like AI models?
It is.
Really?
Patients will come in, and again, not so much into my practice setting, but in the big wide world of aesthetics, patients will come in and show their providers a photo of what they would like to look like. And it's usually some AI photo that they found or created and, want to tweak little things so that they can look like that.
Wow. Dustin, are you seeing that at all?
No, but I'm not a cosmetics heavy practice. We don't do any filler in my practice at this time. So they're self-selecting to go to other places, I'm sure. So otherwise, it very well could be. I'm curious, a lot of people that are on social media, Dr. Mara, they're, looking to get their name far and wide. They're creating opportunities for themselves there. How have you seen social media, or have you seen social media bring more patients into your practice by posting those before and after results? Because that is one of the reasons people get on social media, is just to get people through the door of their own clinic.
Yeah. So the short answer is a lot of patients have come in saying that they saw me on social and they trust me and they want to hear my expert opinion on what I suggest for their skin or what procedures I think they might benefit from. The other side of that is social media has been a platform, again, for me to educate and not only show my outcomes, but show the process it took to get there. And I think in doing that, it shows these patients that you are confident in what you do. You can speak to the science. You can draw out the anatomy. You can counsel a patient in real time. And all of those things come into play when patients are looking for a new injector, a new provider, a new physician. And they say, I've seen you go through the process, I've seen you inject, and I've seen your outcomes. And I wanted to come here to see you.
That's great feedback. And so, knowing that it's about education, it's about establishing credibility, debunking myths, how do you actually decide what to post? Like, do you have a content calendar? Do you have content pillars? How do you decide?
So there are a lot of different things that go into it. I think that really it's threefold. The first thing is kind of what's trending. What are people talking about? What's the buzz? What myths do I need to debunk? What do I need to educate on? And so just keeping up with the trends, staying relevant is of utmost importance. The second piece of that is what are people asking about in clinic? That might be different from what's trending. What conversations am I having every day with my patients? And that's where I get a lot of my content ideas from, real life experiences. And the third piece of it is season, right? So different seasons are times to think about different things. So is it wedding season? Is it winter time, or we need to be thinking about changing up our skincare routine for the winter? Is it going to be spring break and we need to plan for sun protection and things like that? So I think those three things come into play. And I do try to keep a content calendar, but as you can see, it's always in flux just based on what I mentioned.
I love that. So it's trends, it's what's relevant in clinic, and then it's moments in time, it's seasons. So I think those are really great takeaways and easy for somebody to implement. And then, so you have that, and it's funny, Dustin and I were just talking about this earlier. So you have your talking points, but then how do you decide the format? How do you know whether it's going to be doing a voiceover, talking to camera, doing a carousel, doing a procedure clip, a before and after? How do you decide that?
Well, I try to mix it up. So for a long time, it was all about reels and, posting videos in short form and long form. And that all comes with the trends and what people want to see and what's changing in the different algorithms. But I truly think that, mixing it up gives you the best steady engagement. And I think obviously for procedures, having them be in real time and having a video, behind the scenes videos about what you're doing makes a lot of sense. I think for stills, those tend to be more educational carousels, posting pictures of different skincare products or different suggestions on how to accomplish change in your skincare routine over the seasons, things like that. So I think it just depends on what it is I'm posting, what the topics are, and what I've done in the past. So, switching it up. I tend to be a very dynamic person on social. I don't really pigeonhole myself into one type of content or one type of trend. I like to kind of be all over the place. So if that's how, my followers want to roll with me, then, they'll come on a wavy ride, but it'll be fun and unpredictable.
Keeps them on their toes, doesn't get boring, keeps everybody entertained. My follow up to that is okay, so you have the kind of content, the format, but then how do you make it happen? Who does what you talked about? Filming. Do you have somebody on your team that films? Do you do it? Is it your staff? Do you have an agency? How do you actually make it all happen? What does your team look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll just preface that by saying I am a mom of three. I work full time in an academic setting. I teach a lot. It's volunteer teaching. I also volunteer a lot, do a lot of outreach in the community. And so most of my time spent is working, doing the things I love, doing what I just said. And then when I go home, I really do try to separate work from home and I really tune out and turn off and try not to be on my phone when I'm home. So all that said, then it's like, well, how do you do social? And I realized a couple years ago that I really don't have time to do social. I need help. And it is another thing I love and I don't want to give it up because I used to do it all by myself and it would be the wee hours of, editing. It takes hours to edit and filming over lunch and just very discombobulated. What I've done is tried to streamline that process. And the first thing that happened is I had to advocate for myself. And I say that because I work in a university setting. So there's a lot of red tape when it comes to putting yourself out there, especially when you're not only representing your practice and yourself, you're also representing this larger institution. And when I started working here at the University of Rochester, being on social as a physician wasn't a thing. That was completely unheard of. I was pushing the boundaries in every way possible. And so I asked to be connected with the media team and really spent years talking to them about how this would benefit our practice and what I did in terms of being, more aesthetic in academics. And so finally they got behind me maybe just 1 or 2 years ago, and I've been here 8 years. And so they've allocated a person to help me with social, to help pitch ideas, help pitch content, help with editing. And so that's one piece of the puzzle. So the university team does help me now, which is amazing. And I'm so grateful.
I don't think that would be a common thing in the academic setting.
Right. And then the other part of it is I do have somebody who's sort of on my side, non-university related, my person, if you will. I film, I send her the content, she edits it. And so at this point, she has years and years of content from me and is able to really create anything at any time, just depending on what we chat about. So there is a team of maybe 5 or 6 people helping me at the moment.
This is great because, Dustin and I always talk about how you can do it all, how anyone does it all, full-time job, family, and when to hire a team.
You can't do it all. You have to know when you need help.
Yeah, and it's an evolution. It doesn't start out that way, but as you kind of find what direction things are going for you, then you build out. I've said it before, but I'm always a big fan of do only the things that only you can do. And that's where you've got to show up on camera, but somebody else can edit, somebody else can handle emails. And so you've really set out a team to set yourself up for success. And that's kind of a key message that a lot of people need to learn. And I'm still surprised when I meet somebody on social media who has a ton of followers, for example, and they're still doing everything themselves. And it kind of blows me away. I'm like, you need help. You need more. You're running yourself into the ground.
That's right. There's burnout. Burnout is the thing. And then they disappear for a while, and that's not good either. So find a routine and a rhythm that works for you and that keeps everybody involved happy.
Couldn't agree more. And then the last part of like the mechanics, let's talk about tools and setup. What is it your typical setup? Like your lights, what kind of lights do you use? Camera? Do you use your phone, a DSLR, kind of microphone?
So I've recently expanded to YouTube, and I have to credit Dustin for that. I'm so grateful for all the people he's put in my life and connected me to. So again, I have not done any of this by myself. There were so many pieces of the puzzle, and I don't take any of that for granted. So grateful. But I have pretty much two areas where I film. So in my office, and then at home, I have a little studio that I've set up. And in the office, it's pretty simple. I use a ring light, and I have a DJI, this camera, so little handheld. And then I also have the microphone setup that's connected to this. So it's also a DJI microphone. And at home, I do have some lighting panels because the studio's in the basement. And so it's pretty dark down there. And so I do have help with light. But I love my office setting because I'm right in front of these big floor to ceiling windows. I saw at some point you wanted to ask, ring light versus natural. And for me, it's natural light all the way, if I can.
Amazing. And then the last question around that is that from an editing tool perspective, do you use editing tools? I know that you have support in editing, but do you do in-app editing? Is there a specific tool you like personally?
Yeah, so CapCut and Canva, tried and true. Those are the ones that I use and that we use.
I think that's super important just from a tool perspective to know, especially new creators, to know that it's not something super fancy. And Canva is actually extremely, extremely advanced. There's a lot of different things that you can do on Canva now that makes it easy.
Absolutely. Yeah. User friendly. And again, I don't have a ton of time to mess with complicated apps. So those I've been able to edit things myself in. And, I feel successful doing it.
Just kind of keeping the workflow as easy as possible.
That's right.
And speaking of workflow, you get paid partnerships that, transparently our team, MB Social, supports you with. And, I was asking you just this before we started recording, but at what point did you realize that you needed to expand your team to include help with paid partnerships?
Yeah, so that is a critical point of realization where you're just completely overwhelmed with emails and invoicing and constant communication with other teams and other PR companies. And so I realized that a couple years ago. I ran into Dustin at a Neutrogena event and I said, "Hey, you look like you know what's going on and how to do all this. Like, I need help." And again, it's just that point where you're like, I need to ask for help and figure out, how I can streamline this and make it easier for everyone involved. And so Justin graciously connected me to your team, and it was pretty much a no-brainer. I knew that I needed that support to continue to become more and more successful and develop relationships, which I still have to date. So I'm just so grateful for everyone's support again, and knowing I just can't do this all by myself.
That is one thing I really like about the physician community on social media is by and large, people are so willing to help and support each other.
Because it's not big enough. I think we need more. We need more voices. We need more physicians out there speaking the truth, debunking myths, connecting with our audience, connecting with people who don't have access to care and health information. Not that we're diagnosing disease, but at least giving them the basics of what they should know because they can't access it at the moment. I think it's just so important. We need more voices.
And that's also part of the goal of why we started this podcast and why we have the Med Creator platform is to give people those resources. Dustin used to have at least weekly calls with different physicians, everyone picking his brain. What should they do? How should they do it? Because it's not taught, because it's not widely accessed or the resources just aren't present.
And speaking to, my university experience, that's it. They just didn't know that this was a thing that physicians could do it in a way that is professional, respectable, informative, educational, all of those things. I think there might be a stigma that comes with being on social where all of a sudden it's unprofessional or you're putting yourself out there. There's just negativity that's behind it that really our mindset needs to be shifted when it comes to that.
Yeah, very, very true. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the unique opportunities you've gotten through social media because you've done so much bringing patients into the clinic, putting out information. But what are some of the unique opportunities you've been able to participate in that never would have come to you if you weren't active on social media?
I'm going to break these down into personally, professionally, and fun. Oh my gosh, never in a lifetime would I thought about this. And that was meeting Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
That was out of this world. And I have no doubt that that came from my relationships with industry and just having long-standing relationships with people at Neutrogena and beyond. So that I am just so grateful for, once in a lifetime, oh my gosh, moment for me. Personally, I grew up on Guam. So I grew up in an underserved community where there was limited access to healthcare and limited access to dermatology, if you will. So I am very passionate about outreach and educating wherever I am. I'm not on Guam, so it's hard for me to give back to that community in which I was raised. So wherever I am, I try to give back to the community that I'm in and get to know key players. And I think my presence on social has afforded me a lot of opportunities for outreach and going into different women's shelters and being able to educate women and children in that capacity. I was asked to speak and do some mentorship at a youth women's leadership forum for women in high school, middle school, and high school, and was part of that program. And I think without social, it wouldn't have been so easy for me to be called upon and been able to integrate into those communities locally. Then lastly, I think it's also really helped me form a amazing relationship with my daughter. And I say, it's like, oh, you're a mom. Well, obviously you'll have a relationship with your daughter, but it's just been so special because we had the opportunity to work on a skincare line for teens and tweens and connect with some influencers that girls her age, I hate to use the word idolize, but they do really look up to these influencers. And I've been able to work closely with her and a whole advisory board of teens and talk about what they want in skincare and educate them on what's appropriate for their developing skin. That's all come from being on social.
Those are some amazing opportunities and a lot of fun. And I got to be there, with you when we met Snoop Dogg, and kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity to do something that fun. So as we look at 2026, what's next on social media for you? If you were to call your shot or say, what are your goals as you continue this? Because it's always evolving. You're always learning, trying new things. Where do things go from here?
I feel like that's a day by day question. What's next? What's trending? What is it? Gosh, I think I'm just going to continue to push the platform with education, authenticity, engage my daughter more. I think just being a good role model for her and that teen tween population. I'd love to continue to work with industry and develop more long-term relationships with different brands that I really feel aligned with. And gosh, it's just so exciting. I think, as I said, it's ever evolving and ever changing, and I'm here for it.
And speaking of your daughter and passion projects, you were part of a very cool passion project that blew out of the water, that teen skincare line.
Oh, yeah. So that's what I was mentioning. Yes, absolutely.
That was very, very, very cool that you were involved in that. That was one of the history making moments too, I would say.
Yes, it blew up just sort of out of nowhere. I mean, we thought it was sort of a startup, if you will, and we thought, where are we going with this? And really, it just blew up. It's been so fun to have a role on that project as a medical advisor.
Very fun. Before we wrap up, I want to just ask you what you would say to other medical professionals, dermatologists or not, who are interested in social media but haven't taken the plunge yet. What would you tell them if you could think back of maybe something that would have been helpful for you to know at the very beginning of your journey?
I would say dive right in. Don't be hesitant. We need you. We need your voice. We need your opinion. And ask around for help. Ask your colleagues. We are all here to be of assistance and give advice. And now we've been doing it for a while. And I don't think there's really a right place or a wrong place to start. Just start. And you'll quickly find a new network of physicians who have your back and are there to support you along the way. And it might turn into something magical that you never expected, as it has for me and maybe even Dustin. So I would just say dive in, get started,
Just start.
just start.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing your incredible experience on social media. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This has been so fun. I really get a chance to talk about the beginnings.
If people want to find you on social media, where's the best place for them to find you?
So my handle is very easy. It's at Dr. Mara Weinstein. And you can find me on TikTok at Dr. Mara Weinstein, on Instagram, same handle, and also on YouTube. Check out my YouTube channel. It's evolving, and I would love some more support with that.
Yeah, and we'll have links to those in the podcast show notes so everybody can check those out. YouTube is it's an interesting one. It's a very different type of content, and it's a long game. So we want to make sure that we get out and support you there. So thank you to our audience for tuning in, and hopefully you've taken away some great pearls. And really the message that we've shared since the beginning is just start, dive right in, get going. And there's lots of people out there willing to support and help you. If this information or episode has been helpful, leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts, and we'll catch you on the next episode.